Good morning, everybody. I have no financial disclosures to make. As we know, laboratory diagnosis is all about collecting evidences to support or rule out a clinical diagnosis. And we do that in the form of collecting direct evidence of the organism in the sample by microscopy, or by allowing the organism to grow more and then look at it in culture. Or nowadays we are looking at the DNA of the organism. Collection of sample is done by the clinician. Vitreous sample is the best sample to give to the laboratory. One can also inoculate the sample in the OR, on slides or on culture media. If one wants to send the sample for molecular diagnosis, the sample must be put inside a small tube which is called microcentrifuge tube, and sample should be kept in cold, either in the refrigerator or preferably minus 20 degrees. These are all the culture media that we are familiar with if we want to do the conventional methods. It's important to include media which will support the growth of anaerobic organisms like thioglycolate and Robertson's cooked meat medium. We all know that the sensitivity of smear examination and culture of vitreous for the diagnosis of endophthalmitis is not very high, and it ranges from 20 to 40 or 50% in culture, and smear is around 30%. And the causes for these are actually inherent in the methodology. As you can see, the microscopy detection limit of an organism is 10 to the power 5 organisms per ml. If the organism is present, then you can find the organism under the microscope. Similarly, if the number of organisms are 10 to the power 3 per ml, it will be culture positive. Therefore, the limitation is in the techniques itself, apart from the time that it takes to grow the organisms. The other reasons for low sensitivity could be delay in processing samples, small number of organisms, prior antibiotic therapy, and sequestration of the organisms. All of these can be overcome by the diagnostic molecular methods now that have become the tools of modern microbiologists. We detect the DNA of the organism. The tests are highly sensitive to the tune of even less than 10 organisms per ml, or sometimes even less than 1 organism, they say. It is highly specific, rapid in the sense the same day the results can be obtained, and it is definitely ideal for samples like vitreous. Apart from being sensitive and specific, detection of new and emerging pathogens is possible by using these techniques. What has happened in endophthalmitis? Initially, the test was started using a universal eubacterial PCR based on 16S rDNA gene of the bacteria, and then soon we realized the problems with contamination. I'll tell you more details later. And then we thought the sequencing of PCR products is the answer. Pan-fungal PCRs plus minus sequencing was developed, and real-time PCR has been developed, and now we also have something called DNA chip technology. We are all familiar with PCR. Here you have expansion of the number of DNA particles, and that is a template DNA from the sample, which exponentially increases in number when you are doing PCR, and it is resolved on agarose gel. You can see the bands on the agarose gel which represent the amplification of the specific DNA. Initial studies have shown that nested PCR using universal eubacterial primers could increase the sensitivity of what I said, 30 to 40% to 70 to 90% in diagnosis of endophthalmitis. However, people realize that there is a problem with contamination, and which is mainly because of the reagents that were used in PCR. The bacterial origin of the DNA Taq polymerase, which is used for PCR, was a culprit for leading to contamination, and soon it was realized that one has to do sequencing or take extreme care to remove these contaminating problems. And sequencing has now become very easy by many commercial companies providing that. You just do PCR and the product, and you can get results of the sequencing of the DNA that you have amplified. This paper is very interesting, which has pointed out that apart from the reagents, it is the saline, water for injection, povidone iodine solutions which are used may have dead DNA, dead organisms with their DNA, and that can get detected by this eubacterial primer. So that has added to the problem of the eubacterial PCR for bacteria. This problem has not been seen with pan-fungal PCR, where ITS region is used as the target gene, and there are many different types of primers have been compared. The ITS one is the best one, which is sensitivity is statistically higher than that of the other two types of primers. We are aware of the use of blast analysis. After sequencing, one can use the data for directly finding out the type of the organism that is involved in the infection. Thus, application of molecular methods in fungal diagnosis is extremely good. Diagnosis of intraocular fungal infections. It also can allow you to identify non-sporulating fungi, identification of known and unknown fungi, and finally phylogenetic studies. There are many modifications of PCR which are very useful in different situations, and real-time PCR is the one which is very different from normal PCR in the sense it gives you number of copies of DNA that has been amplified. There are 14 publications as of now on the use of real-time PCR on endophthalmitis, and results are very, very promising. As you can see, in 19 cases, 18 were positive by quantitative PCR, whereas culture was 10 out of 19 and smear was 9 out of 19. Similarly, you find with other reports, more than 90% of the cases, the diagnosis can be clinched with the help of real-time PCR. In intraocular tuberculosis diagnosis, there is no doubt that PCR has a great role to play, being an extremely paucibacillary disease, and currently we have a multiplex PCR which is giving us which targets more. The sensitivity of this test is almost 25 femtogram that DNA that you can detect, and it is extremely specific. However, the tuberculosis being an endemic disease, you find that control group, which are other types of endophthalmitis, we have been able to find which were not thought to be tuberculosis. 20% or more can be positive by this test, and this is a list of 7 cases where we found that the samples actually were given to the laboratory for diagnosis of either post-op or traumatic or endogenous endophthalmitis, and when just PCR was done just as a control, and we found them to be positive for tuberculosis. We have now got a DNA chip. As a country, we can be proud of developing this. Exciton has developed, and with the help of many other institutions. Dr. Das mentioned about this. There is a booth in the trade area. One can go and have and learn more about this. Initially, it was developed for 4 clinical diseases, but now it has been expanded to include what is called syndrome evaluation system for infective endophthalmitis, and large number of gram-positive, gram-negative and fungal organisms can be identified based on this, which is actually a very simple test. It does not require gel electrophoresis. With this, I would now tell you the difficulties that we are facing in spite of developing this test, which are highly sensitive and specific. The clinical validations need to be done further. More and more publications need to come for the validations. False positives, PCR inhibitors, all that need to be taken care of. Sequencing a real-time PCR is able to handle that to some extent. Impact of these tests has been actually published for ocular infections, where it says that HSV, VZV, C. trachomatis and acanthamoeba are extremely, these are the situations where PCR is very useful. However, more studies need to be done to find out the impact of these tests in the diagnosis of endophthalmitis. In summary, interpretation is remaining challenging due to detection of DNA from dead organisms. False positives due to contamination of sample is possible, yet to become a routine, and there are very few commercial kits. The tests remain expensive, and the isolates are not available for additional testing, and of course one requires highly skilled personnel to do these tests and provide the benefit. Thank you so much.